Welcome to the Crown Casino in Melbourne, Australia, where the world's finest poker players have traveled from across the globe to compete in the Southern Hemisphere's premier poker tournament. FullTiltPoker.net presents the Aussie Millions. Tonight, part 2 of our exclusive invitation-only cash game. Last week, Mike Matisoff flamed out in spectacular fashion, lasting less than 20 hands and losing over $100,000.
Biggest joke in ever.
Tonight, 8 top players remain, including the man many consider the world's #1.
I think when I'm playing my best, the only person that can beat me is myself. I believe that.
Poker's biggest names are about to mix it up with a fortune at stake and no limit on how much can be won or lost. From the Crown Casino in Melbourne, Australia, FullTiltPoker.net presents the Aussie Millions Cash Game Invitational. And what another beautiful night it is here at the Crown Casino in Melbourne, Australia. The sun just started to set over the Yarra River. I'm Barry Tompkins, my partner, the noted poker author, Michael Koenig. What a great field we have here, Michael.
That's John Juanda, Californian by way of Indonesia, 3-time bracelet winner.
And next to him, Patrick Antonius. He came up big in part 1 a week ago.
And I think he's going to be a force tonight with that huge stack of chips.
Jeff Lissandro, he's been up, he's been down, but over his lifetime, over $2 million in winnings. Phil Ivey, maybe the best player in the world.
And certainly we found out last week, the best golf hustler.
And Eric Lindgren, probably the hottest player of 2007. Already won a 100K event here.
Worth $1 million.
Chris Ferguson, everybody knows him.
Well, he's famous for tournament wins, Barry. This is our first time to see him play for cash, and that's our wild card, Masaki Kagawa, a wealthy amateur from Japan.
Let's take a look at the rules. It's no limit Texas Hold'em. Players can buy in for any amount. Player can enter or leave the game at any time. Every chip represents an actual Australian dollar amount. We're not talking chip count here. We're talking dollars. And Antonius starts the competition today. $128,000 to the good. That is some 60,000 more than Kagawa, the amateur, who right now is in second place. So 7 players, and it's a cash deal. Blinds are 300 and 600, and an ante of $100. And there's a little pair for Lissandro.
Both he and Ivy call the big blind. Kagawa on the button.
And he raised to 1,600, and ooh, look at this.
How gorgeous to be sitting in the blind, pick up pocket aces with a whole bunch of people already in the pot. Juanda raises it up
to 9,600. And that's going to get people folding their tents, so to speak. Kagawa taking a look at the Jack-8.
Can't see him calling here. And you might say Juanda raised too much, but really he made a good play. He wanted to thin the field, and he's going to rake in $13,700 real dollars.
Yeah, easy dollars, too. And as you point out, real dollars. And that's, of course, the difference here between tournament play. We're always talking about chip count. Here we're talking about dollars. Here's what the chips are worth. The black chips are worth $100. Then it's $500, $1,000 for those cute little baby blue guys. But how about that big rectangular one?
Well, Barry, that's $25,000 cash. And when a guy reaches down and grabs, let's say 3 of them, he's saying, I'm going to bet you a new luxury automobile.
I mean, I'm serious.
Here's a down payment on a waterfront mansion.
It takes some nerve. Queen Little for Ivy. He'll raise it to 2,000 with that. That's kind of a typical Phil Ivey, a call from Lindgren. And Ferguson, I'm sure, will enter the fray. He calls as well. Kagawa will not play. 3 players to the flop. Jack 5 deuce on the flop. Little pair for Ivy. And Lindgren with an open-ended straight draw. 5,000 is the bet from Ivy.
Lindgren could easily call here or raise on the semi-bluff.
Raises to 18,000. How about Ferguson? Goodbye.
And it should be enough to get Phil Ivey out of this pot as well. He's only got bottom pair. No, he's going to call.
And a 9 on the turn. help to either player. Check, check. 7 on the river. So now it's going to come down to the betting.
Well, Eric Lindgren knows there is no way he can win this pot unless he can bluff Phil Ivey off the best hand.
There.
So Lindgren just gave up. He, in effect, is letting Phil Ivey win a $43,000 pot with a measly pair of deuces.
I thought you said air, and air was good too. Nut low. Oh, you are sick.
Just a little friendly banter between friends.
What a gift on the turn. That's what I have to play. You bet the turn, I was moving all in, so trust me. I would have gambled. Save money. I probably would have gambled.
Well, you don't see Phil Ivey smile that much at the poker table, but winning $40,000 pots tends to put you in a good mood.
Well, it's a rare sight indeed, but don't get used to it. We got a lot of serious poker action coming on the PhotoPoker.net Aussie Millions Cash Game Invitational. We welcome you back to the beautiful Crown Casino here in Melbourne, Australia. I'm Barry Tompkins, along with noted poker author Michael Koenig. We continue session 2 of our Cash Game Invitational.
Well, Michael, there's a lot of great players at this table, but there's the ominous presence of Phil Ivey, arguably the best player in the game.
And one of the reasons people believe this is because he's so well-rounded. We've done numerous tournaments together where he's won the tournament, but tournaments are really just a sideline for Phil Ivey. He is a cash game player. In fact, in Las Vegas, he plays in the very biggest game with Doyle Brunson and Chip Reese. This is not new territory for him. He enjoys the high stakes, and indeed, he is fearless. This is our chance to see Phil Ivey doing what he does best.
Let's sit back and watch.
Well, the blinds continue to be 300 and 600, and there is a $100 ante. Lissandro, ace-6 suited. He makes the call. Ivey, pair of threes, he'll call. Lindgren with a jack-10. Limping in here. Antonius, queen-jack, he'll check in the big blind. So 4 players to the flop. 5, 9, 8 on the flop.
And 2 hands in a row, Eric Lindgren has flopped an open-ended straight draw.
2,000 to bet on the little pair for Ivey. Lindgren makes the call.
Ivey does have the best hand at this point, but Lindgren has terrific drawing possibilities. Antonius, 2 overcards and a gut shot straight draw.
Call from Antonius.
Well, Lissandro may think he's got great odds here, but he really doesn't have anything to work with. He's out.
A deuce on the turn.
Ivey still with the best hand with a little pocket trays. Let's see if he has the will to take another stab at this pot. Takes a lot of courage with all those overcards. No, he checks, and so does Lindgren. Oh, Patrick Antonius has made the nuts straight, and that's a terrible card for Lindgren. He's made top pair.
8,000 is the bet.
And I think that's cheap enough that Antonius rates to get paid off by Eric Lindgren. I don't see how Ivey can play here. He's out, but Lindgren, I mean, he made his card on the end. He hit top pair, and it's very difficult for him to give Antonius a queen-jack there.
Really like Antonius's manner at the table.
Inscrutable.
Yeah, got a lot of Phil Ivey in him. Lindgren makes the call.
That's right.
Antonius makes his hand and gets paid off.
If I was going for the exacta, that's what I would have guessed. He's good against you with that hand, Eric.
Well, that's right. He's been good most all the night, and it's play like that that's helped build his reputation as one of the game's elite players.
My name is Patrick Antonius, and I'm originally from Finland. The gambling has been a long time in my blood. We started to play cards when I was like 12. Eventually, I found that they play poker in a casino, and the rest is history.
He's fearless, he's relaxed, he's totally dangerous.
He just really focuses on the game with a passion that a lot of people, including myself, we go through times where you just don't try as hard at poker. It always looks like he's trying harder than you.
His record kind of speaks for itself. He's made plenty of final tables. He's had some big wins. I mean, he's really tough. He comes up with some great reads.
I played with him a number of times on the internet. I think he's played really, really well. He understands the game, especially in No Limit Hold'em. He's really, really tough. I think he's very similar to Phil. A lot of moves and very solid. I think he'll turn into a great player. I think he's already there.
Finland has given us Formula One racers, cross-country skiers, and now poker phenoms.
A couple of biathletes and ski jumpers.
Antonius is actually a former tennis pro.
Looks like a tennis player. Well, there's an ace-jack for Chris Ferguson, who hasn't had much to play with lately. Raised to 2,000. Kagawa gets out of the way. John Juanda, pocket eights.
He'll certainly want to play. The question is, raise or call? This is right in the middle. Yeah, he does call. Oh, Antonius. Big hand behind, and he just calls. A lot of players would have raised there. Antonius disguising the strength of his hand.
And now Phil Ivey going to look hard at that ace-5.
And Barry, I think Ivey could sense all this calling means weakness from his opponents, and he might want to make a move, or he'll get the discount. Yep, from the big blind, he only has to put in another 1,400.
So 4 players now to the flop. 6, 7, 10 on the flop.
And although John Juanda has picked up a gut shot straight draw, Patrick Antonius's overpair, the queens, is still the best hand.
Juanda bets 8,000. That pair of eights.
Now, Barry, a multi-way pot like this, I think Antonius might want to thin the field with the raise. No, he just calls.
Phil Ivey's got to be thinking, I'm not in great shape here. And he throws it away.
And he's right. And Ferguson has merely 2 overcards. Antonius's play there is pretty tricky. It's very hard to give him a hand like queens right now.
A 4 on the turn.
And that gives Juanda a double gutter, a 5 or a 9 for the straight.
He checks.
Well, with a possible flush and straight out there now, I don't think Antonius wants to give any more free cards. He doesn't know that Juanda merely has an underpair to his queens. And so he's not going to, yeah, he's reaching for chips. That river is not going to come cheap.
18,000 is what he bet.
John Juanda has to decide, is Patrick Antonius making a move on this pot with a draw of his own? And he decides the man is for real. And again, we see Patrick Antonius win another large pot.
Well, remember when we left off last week, he was our leader, and our leader by quite a large margin, and he has just picked up the mantle from where he left off 1 week ago. Everybody talks about the comparison to Phil Ivey, and you know what? Seems to be a just comparison. Plenty more to come from Melbourne. Welcome back to the FullTiltPoker.net Aussie Millions Cash Game Invitational. Let's see where we stand right at the moment, and it is Patrick Antonius, almost 3 times that of the runner-up Kagawa. Remember, there's only one person in the red there, but Mike Matiso and David Benjamin left about 150,000 behind last week. So really it is Antonius with a very big lead, and the amateur really hanging right in there. And I, just as I say that, he gets pocket aces. 1,600. John Juanda with a jack 10.
And Barry, I think these guys want to try to play a lot of pots with Masa Kagawa. They want to keep putting him to the test. They figure eventually he'll make a mistake.
An ace-jack for Lissandro. And he calls. In the big blind, he gets a discount, so Ivey will limp in with apparently Excedrin headache number 27. 4 to the flop. 3 jack 7. Ooh, this could really hurt Lissandro and Juanda.
Yeah, that's a bad flop for those fellas. They made top pair, and especially Lissandro, top pair, top kicker. And Kagawa bets a fairly inviting 4,000.
And he does get a call, of course. And so does Lissandro. Why not? I'm sure he's got to be thinking, I'm looking pretty good. 6 on the turn. And a check from Lissandro.
Kagawa must bet here. There are 2 different flush draws out there now, as well as various straight draws. He's reaching.
12,000 is the bet. Gives Juwanda some pause.
I think if Jeff Lissandro wasn't behind John Juwanda, Juwanda would call. But because that man Lissandro is lurking, he's got to be careful. And Lissandro, I think, still loves his hand right here.
What's not to love? And a 5 on the river and a check from Lissandro.
And, you know, I think that could be an action killer. Yeah, Kagawa checks it down.
He's got a pair of queens.
Well, close. He had a pair of aces, but I'll tell you, this amateur Kagawa continuing to impress everybody at the table.
And having a great time in the process.
Well, he's conquered the business world, and now he set himself a new challenge, conquer the world of poker.
How do you say the name? Masa?
Never until Australia had I seen him.
Well, he's one of the rich guys who just learned the game. Masa, I played with him 2 times this week, and I could tell that he's a really smart guy. I think he's recently taken up poker. I could tell that, and that he's learning every day.
We played with Masa the other day, and he played the 100,000 buy-in. He was really tough. He shifts gears a little bit, but he might just do some really ridiculous bluffs that he's very capable of.
Yes.
It's a great experience for him. And I recommend that if anybody really takes poker up seriously and they want to get better at poker, they're going to have to play with people that are better than them. That's how you learn.
In this group, you could probably safely say he is the guy everybody's shooting at.
And what a tremendous experience for Masaki Kagawa. I mean, what other competition can an enthusiastic amateur just show up, hey, you know what? I want to play against Kobe Bryant. I want to take batting practice off of Randy Johnson. You know, and these are the all-stars of the game, and this man is holding his own with them.
Kagawa with a king-queen suited raises to 2,000. Antonius, ace-10 suited, calls. Kagawa's in the toy shop of life with a credit card to buy whatever he wants.
And these fellows are happy to oblige.
Exactly. Ivy also calls 3 to the flop. Pair of queens and a 5. Hits Kagawa.
It gets better and better for that man. And he just checks. He's slow playing that big hand. Antonius, without a flush draw, checks behind him. Oh, man!
Now, this should be interesting.
Well, yeah, not only did Kagawa make a full house, Antonius has pulled up a royal flush draw. And Kagawa continues to slow play his big hand. Antonius bets into him.
4,000. Kagawa being deliberate. Just calls. And a 4 on the river.
He was slow on the flop, slow on the turn, and now on the river. He continues to slow play it. Wow. Oh, and Antonius doesn't bite.
Nonetheless, another impressive win for Masa Kagawa.
Notched you.
A little commentary from the gallery there. Well, Antonius did not take the bait. He lost the hand, but could have been a lot worse. As to Kagawa, he's rolling. We're coming back. We welcome you back to the FullTiltPoker.net Aussie Millions Cash Game Invitational. Alongside poker author Michael Koenig, I'm Barry Tompkins. And Mike, new player at the table now, Australia's own Billy Argyros.
And Billy's been around the circuit for many years, very well known down under.
Well, the game of poker is certainly full of characters, and this guy right here, one of Australia's most colorful characters.
My name is Billy Crocodile Argyros, the croc, or the crocodile. Crocodile normally is an animal which sits and waits, and all of a sudden, grab. So that's my job. Sit there, wait, grab. I'm going to take a chunk of your chips. You put some chips in that pot, they might be fine. Next time, whoop, the crocodiles grab those chips, baby. And once the crocodile gets chips, he doesn't release them very easily. I have a crystal croc, which I put on my cards. I have another croc, which is just like on a surfboard. I've got another croc which comes out in boxing gloves. I love collecting crocodile stuff. I end up getting T-shirts made. I must have about 20 to 25 T-shirts of crocodiles. I try to wear a different one every day. I've got one message for everyone, and this is it. You'll see them razzle-dazzle and give the regular players the old 1-2. But tell me, baby, answer me this question. What you gonna do when this crocodile runs all over you? It's showtime.
Every now and then, life's a crock.
Well, although Billy has played a lot of poker, I don't think that hat is going to intimidate anybody at this table.
Not an off-the-rack object, is it? Meantime, this guy has just been steadfast. King 10. He'll call. A Queen 10 now for Antonius. E2 will call, as will Lissandro with a Queen 9. Ivy, a King 5, will raise it up to 4,000. And Lindgren calls. Kagawa also calls. Antonius will fold that hand, as will Lissandro. So 3 players will take it to the flop. Lindgren, slight edge here. 10-9 tray on the flop. Kagawa just keeps on catching him.
Yeah, they've got an expression, running good. Not running well, running good. And Kagawa is running good.
Yeah, he is. 10,000 to bet from Phil Ivey. And that does get at least one player out, but it's not going to get Kagawa, especially not going to get him now.
And that's a terrible card for Phil Ivey. He was bluffing on the flop, but now he has made top pair. And what turned from a bluff is now he thinks a value bet.
25,000 is his bet off of Kagawa's check.
And when you have a 0% chance to win, there is no value.
Yeah, those are not good odds. Even I know that.
Kagawa is taking his time here.
Leads.
He's going to raise to 50,000.
And that's a very curious, what we call double raise. It's the minimum raise. And that normally means one of two things. Either a guy is trying to buy himself a very cheap draw, or he has a very big hand that he's trying to get additional value for. Phil Ivey is going to have to try to figure out what's really going on here. And one of the problems for Ivey is that he really hasn't played that much poker with Kagawa. He's going to call with no chance of winning.
134,500 in the pot, and it's an ace. And another check from Kagawa.
And I'm not really sure Kagawa is trying to trap here, Barry. I think he just wants to show this hand down. I think he figures, look, anything I bet, if I get called, the only thing that calls me is a hand that beats me. I'd be surprised, though, if Ivey didn't take a shot here. I mean, the word check to Ivey is like an invitation to steal.
So Kagawa just stares across the table.
Oh, and Ivey checks as well. He saves some money there, and Kagawa again wins a giant pot.
Nice hand, Mesa.
Thanks.
Commentary from the Croc. Very good hand, though, from Masa. And that's getting redundant. He's had a whole lot of good hands.
Anyone cracking jokes, or we just quiet as a church mouse is he?
Well, I think it's the latter right now, particularly for Phil Ivey, as Masa Kagawa is now up 154,200 Australian dollars. Phil Ivey seems to be having a bit of a rough spell right now, but it's nothing compared to Mike Mattisau's ride in session 1, where he lost $100,000 in less than 20 hands. He tried to make a move against David Benjamin and lost over 50K, and then he called Jeff Lissandro's all in with a pair of jacks.
I was so sure I had the best hand.
But the jacks didn't hold. He threw in his last 25,000 and was called by Masa Kagawa, who made his flush on the river and sent the mouth to the rail.
Mattisau's visit was like a De La Hoya left hook, quick and painful.
Who runs worse than me, dude? Well, I never win a pot in poker, man.
When Mike got knocked out, did he change his T-shirt to on tilt?
No, he just walked away quietly.
Quietly?
Like a gentleman.
No one even noticed when he was gone.
He was pretty quiet when he was here.
He was a true gentleman.
Someone told me it was a replay of the charging of the bulls in Spain.
Little editorial comments on Mike Mattisau. He is one of a kind. I say that to a guy wearing a crocodile on his head.
Little suit of connectors here.
2000.
Welcome to the game.
Ivy with a 10-9. He'll call.
He's in position right behind the croc. So if Ivy senses weakness, you know he will be ready to hunt.
5, Jack, 7 gives Argyros a pair of 7s.
Ivy with a gut shot straight draw.
Argyros checked. 4,000 to bet from Phil Ivy.
Tough call here with middle pair, but the croc has got to know that Ivy's going to bet just about anything there. Oh, and look at this. Ivy has run him down.
And a quick check from Argyros. Check by Ivy. And an 8 on the river.
That gives Ivy a straight. The croc mulls his options.
6,000.
He announces a $6,000 bet. Well, Ivy's going nowhere, Barry. I mean, the only hand that he's really worried about is a flush, but this is pocket change for Phil Ivy.
And he calls.
I think he's got me. One pair.
And Phil sort of nonchalants him. Croc's adding that up.
Yeah, dirty, rotten 8 on the river.
The 8 on the river. The 10 on the turn.
Rebuy.
Just kidding about the revive, but Phil Ivy, all of a sudden, the greatest player in the world, perhaps, starting to getting. We're coming back to Melbourne after this. We welcome you back to the Crown Casino here in Melbourne, Australia. Barry Tompkins, Michael Koenig alongside. Before we return to play, we want to share with you one of Crown's premier properties. Right across the street from the casino, the Crown Promenade offers a thoroughly modern hotel experience. Spacious rooms with fantastic views are a certainty. Step out onto the deck or unwind with a dip in the pool, or maybe work out at the fitness center. Sleep, eat, work, or play, you can do it all in style at the Crown Promenade. And we continue the action here. Barry Tompkins, Michael Koenig alongside. Some of the best poker players in the world and a very talented amateur as well. Cash game, remember, Phil Ivy, ace-3 suited, Lindgren, ace-queen. Both will limp in. Kagawa gets out of there. Antonius with pocket 8s. What do you do with this, Mike?
Well, those limps in front look pretty weak. Antonius cutting out a raise.
3,800. Croc has no bite. Phil Ivy, ace little. And he's going to re-raise to 11,000.
A guy who smooth calls in opening position and then re-raises a razor typically has a very big hand. But Antonius knows that's Phil Ivy. He can probably have just about any 2 cards.
And we've seen him do this in the past. Antonius gives up nothing in expression. I will say that. Of course, neither does Phil Ivy. He makes the call.
Good action.
The Croc doing a little bit of our job. To the flop. 4, tray, queen. Bottom pair for Ivy.
Antonius still with the best hand.
16,000, so Ivy pushing it.
Now, Antonius knows that Phil Ivy is capable of making that bet with queens, 3s, 4s, or some sort of draw.
And he does get a call, and now a 5 on the turn.
That gives Ivy a gut shot straight draw.
Antonius, as you see, big favorite here. Ivy's going to continue to press, it looks. Oh, is he? 40,000 into the impassive face of Antonius.
There's two ways for Antonius to read that bet. Either that Phil Ivey has a big hand and doesn't want Antonius to draw, or he's trying to buy the pot.
All in.
All in, he says.
All in.
Really putting the pressure right back on Phil Ivey.
Very strong play there by Antonius, and I think it helps his read here that his opponent is Phil Ivey. A lot of players can't make that kind of bet without a huge hand.
What happened?
Crockett left, just makes an appearance again. Very crucial point right here.
And because Phil Ivey is the kind of player who can make a $40,000 cash bet with nothing, Antonius knows that his pair of eights very often rates to be the best hand here. And, you know, also, opening in first position there, as Phil Ivey did, he could have a hand like ace-king of diamonds, which would be a fabulous hand to semi-bluff with.
Would you like to ask the audience? I'll find a friend.
Again, a running commentary. Maybe not quite appropriate here with $215,800 in the pot. Dollars, I repeat. Ivey's still thinking.
You're winning on the golf course. Don't worry about it.
Not getting a lot of laughs from that.
No, and that's really distracting and completely inappropriate. Guy's not in the hand. He needs to be quiet and watch. Meanwhile, Phil Ivey's trying to puzzle this out. Is Antonius himself on a flush draw? You know, and I think right now Phil Ivey's also doing the pot out calculations. It would cost him about $80,000 more, and he folds it.
Wow.
Nice hand, Mr. Antonius.
Patrick Antonius looking calm outwardly. I'm sure his heart is beating like a hummingbird. And as to Phil Ivey, tough, tough way to go down. As they say here in Australia, he's going walkabout.
And Barry, I think Phil Ivey is genuinely incensed at having the croc talking in the middle of this gigantic hand. He's taking a walk. The question is, will he come back?
We welcome you back to the FullTiltPoker.net Aussie Millions Cash Game Invitational. Get ready, because in 1 week, the Aussie Millions main event takes center stage. A record field and $7.5 million purse promise to make this tournament one of the biggest ever.
It seems every time that I leave Melbourne and I come back, it gets crazier.
This is the biggest tournament, I think, that there's ever been outside North America. Kind of a historical event.
So don't miss history in the making. The Aussie Millions main event begins right here next week. But that's next week. We're in a cash game right here, and Patrick Antonius has just about buried Phil Ivey. Antonius nearly $200,000 to the good now. And look at Ivey. He's minus $120,500, and tournament officials are telling us, Michael, that he will not return. And I can hardly blame him.
My friend over here, my good friend Patrick.
And that man, the croc, may be the main reason Phil Ivey has decided he's had enough. And Barry, in poker, there's a saying, you never want to run off the donkey from the table. Well, in this case, the croc managed to run off perhaps the greatest player in the world.
Lindgren with an 8-6 suited here. Raised to 2,000. Pocket queens for Chris Ferguson.
We haven't seen a lot of action out of Ferguson. This could be his time to shine.
Re-raised to 7,000.
Wow.
Remember our amateur, Masa Kagawa. He has just been playing great all along. Has good hand here.
Now, he's in position, and he has a lot of extra chips thanks to a couple of big wins, but this is really a fold right here, Barry. No, but he says, I've got plenty of money. Come on, let's gamble.
And he does, so he calls. Gets Juanda out. Antonius, pocket fives. I really like the way he's been playing. With good reason. He's our leader.
And he figures it looks like he's thinking, I've got nearly $200,000 in profits. Why don't I invest a little bit of it, try to make something big on this flop?
And he does, in fact, call.
I think I better pass this time.
And the Croc continues his narration.
And Lindgren calls purely for pot odd purposes. 5,000 to try to snap off a big pot.
4 players to the flop. Deuce Jack 10 on the flop. Good for Kagawa, open-ended straight.
But Ferguson still has the best hand with the queens. He needs to bet here, narrow this field down. Queens look great in your hand before the flop, but when you've got multiple opponents, you don't want to let them see a bunch of cards and catch over cards.
16,000 is the bet from Ferguson to Kagawa.
This is a very good semi-bluff opportunity. Kagawa, I could see either calling or raising here.
He calls. Antonius and Lindgren both out of the way. To the turn.
Oh!
It is an ace.
Bingo.
Wow, Kagawa, not only has he played well, he's getting great cards.
He has been hit by the deck here. This is like any amateur's dream. You sit down with the best players in the world, and all the cards go your way, and you start to feel almost impervious. These guys can't hurt me.
I think he's played the cards well, too. 35,000 is the bet following Ferguson's check. Ferguson, tough decision with a pair of queens, Michael.
And the fact that Ferguson has queens, I think, is going to save him here. You know, the 2 cards he doesn't want to see on that board are a king or an ace. And when that ace came, I don't think he necessarily gave Kagawa the straight, but he said that ace has got me beat. Solid fold by Chris Ferguson.
Massa, you too good here. What are you doing, buddy? Huh?
Lucky beer.
Lucky beer. What are you doing? What are you drinking? Quick, get your advertising budget out. Sapporo?
No. Crown Lager.
Crown Lager? Ah, good Australian beer, buddy.
Well, maybe it's Chris Ferguson who's the one that needs the beer right now. He just finished second best to a darn good amateur. We're coming back. Welcome back to Melbourne, Australia. This, the FullTiltPoker.net Aussie Millions Cash Game Invitational. Some of the best players in the world playing here at the Crown Casino. Barry Tompkins, Michael Koenig alongside, telling you all about it. Patrick Antonius is our big winner thus far, playing against an all-star field, Mike.
This really has been a tremendous glimpse into the world of high-stakes cash poker. Not a tournament, real money.
I'm going to give me any hands with this guy, am I right?
And nobody paying much attention right now to the Croc. There's an ace-king for Lindgren into Antonius, 10-8 offsuit. He'll call. 2 players to the flop. 3-8 ace, so a pair for Antonius now. Lindgren check to Antonius.
Hoping Antonius will do exactly that.
3,000 the bet from Antonius. And Lindgren's going to raise, as you might expect. And a call.
Apparently Antonius does not believe Lindgren oh, look at that! Wow.
That's the way it's gone for Antonius. Check from Lindgren.
I wonder if Lindgren suspects the Finn, Patrick Antonius, has made trip 8s here. Maybe he senses something. We'll find out. Antonius bets it.
14,000 the bet to Lindgren. Now what?
Well, he's calling, and Lindgren does not believe Antonius has an 8 in his hand.
Oh my.
And Barry, I got to tell you, that is a terrible, terrible card for Eric Lindgren. I don't see how he doesn't go broke here. I mean, now there's no way he suspects Antonius has an 8. I mean, come on. Guy's not going to have 4 8s, right? Eric Lindgren has 8s full of aces. Only 2 hands beat him. Pocket aces or quad 8s.
I'm all in.
He's all in.
That's exactly what he would bet if he had an 8.
Antonius says, I'm all in. The trap is set. How hard will it be for him to get away from this?
I don't see any way that Lindgren can fold this. I mean, you know, he probably thinks that they have the same hand. Antonius is making this move with an ace in his hand, and they both have 8s full of aces. And remember, Barry, this is $66,100 real dollars that Eric Lindgren needs to commit here on this call.
It's $120,000 in right now.
Eric Lindgren, again, is probably thinking, well, let's see, I'm getting 2-1 on this call here, just about. Is Patrick Antonius going to have quad 8s more than 1 out of 3 times in this spot? Oh, he calls.
There he goes.
Bad news, Eric.
Oh, my God.
So the rich get richer.
Exactly what do you do if he had an 8? Oh, bad call. Good hand, Patrick.
Thanks.
That's it. You're my hero. You barbecued everybody.
All right.
Well, Lindgren made the call I would have thought he would have had to make.
That was a bad call.
Well, he says bad call, but that would have been an all-universe fold there. Just a terrible situation for Eric Lindgren.
Patrick Antonius imploding with joy. I just know it. 284,000 and change in Australian dollars. How about the amateur Kagawa? $207,000 he'll walk away with, most of it at the expense of 2 of the greatest players in the world, Ivy and Lindgren. Remember, we're coming back to Australia next week as coverage gets underway for the Aussie Millions main event. A record field will pack the Crown Casino along with the biggest names in poker as they battle for their share of the $7.5 million purse. That's next week. Check your local listings for the day and time in your region. That's a wrap for us. For my partner, Michael Koenig, I'm Barry Tompkins. We'll see you next week from Melbourne's beautiful Crown Casino.